Live from 42nd and 2nd, this is New York's very own Pix 11 News at 10.
Tonight at 10, the Bronx sees morning again after another devastating and deadly fire.
I heard a big explosion, boom. When I looked, I seen the house on fire.
All the debris was on the street.
A large explosion rocking the Longwood section. Neighbors describing the horrific scene.
And it was a lady stuck to the fence, trying to get out, screaming for help.
Half of the house was already on her, so I helped her get out.
Amid the chaos, displays of heroism.
Helping people, because that's what I signed up for.
New body camera video shows first responders springing into action.
Risking their lives to save families here.
We saved lives today. Our actions saved lives.
Now, as investigators look into why this happened, local leaders say they're at a breaking point.
Unfortunately, we've had far too many damn fires in the Bronx.
Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm Corey Chambers.
And I'm Tamsin Fidel. Well, the Bronx is still reeling from the fire in Fordham Heights that killed 17. Now another person has died and more families have been left without a home.
Yeah, firefighters responded to a report of an explosion in the Longwood section at around 11 a.m. As of tonight, there are 10 victims. One woman did not survive. Among the 9 injured are several first responders dealing with smoke inhalation.
Well, with more on what we are learning as of tonight, let's go live to Pix 11's Greg Mocker. He is at the scene with the latest. Greg.
Hi, Tamsin and Corey. Fire investigators are still going through the debris here. Initially, this came in as a possible gas explosion. An FDNY chief said there was a report earlier in the morning about someone possibly smelling something, although a Con Ed spokesperson says they received no call about any kind of incident here, and they were not working on the scene. Right now, investigators are still at that main open spot. That is the unit that exploded. That's where 77-year-old Martha Dagbasta lived and was killed. Her sister was rescued from inside there, and also a rescue from next door, a neighbor there. They are in the hospital. 5 hours to get this under control. Some very dramatic video from NYPD will take us inside. Officers run into the fire. Their body cam video shows the heroes in action. They knew it was going to be bad. They didn't only see the flames from a block away.
We actually heard and felt the explosion.
Anthony Diaz and his fellow officers from the 4-1 precinct had to find a way inside. They knew people were trapped.
It was locked, so what I did, me and my partner, we just tried to ham the door open, which was hard because the flame was coming from the bottom.
We could hear her, but we couldn't identify where exactly she was until we jumped into the living room.
This is the living room. The woman who lives here was nowhere to be seen among the pieces of metal and wood and furniture.
Once we moved the sofa and the couch, we seen flames, so we had to act quick because we don't know if it was going to collapse on us as well.
Into the night, crews tear down the buildings, tear up the street. The damage stretches all along the block.
We felt everything that happened. We just didn't know it was this bad.
When we went inside, the walls were shattered. When I went to my grandmother's room, the 3rd floor, the roof was collapsed, and I was too scared to go further in.
Horrifying. She's your mother.
Joe Torres is emotional. His mom is okay. She called him as the fire spread. He ran down the block from his place to hers.
When I got here, the whole house was up in flames.
The NYPD's Rapid Response Unit is working to help the family of the woman who died, visiting them at the hospital. The church on the corner has opened its doors to care for those who can't go back home.
Helping people, because that's what I signed up for. So that was the most important thing at the moment, just to help the community out as much as I could.
This is already a block touched by tragedy. In the 1970s, this was one of the hardest hit areas as the Bronx burned, was abandoned and then rebuilt. Many of the original residents have always lived here. They have other family in the neighborhood. They're staying with them tonight. FDNY will be working through the morning. In the Longwood section of the Bronx, Greg Mocker, Pix 11 News.
Well, thoughts tonight, certainly with all the folks who are recovering, including those first responders who were hurt while trying to help. Greg, thank you.
And of course, stay with Pix 11 for any updates on this Bronx house fire. Any new information is going to be posted on Pix11.com as well as the Pix 11 News app.
Well, tonight, mourners gathered in East Harlem to pay respects to 19-year-old Crystal Bayron Nieves. Last week, she was working as a cashier at a Burger King when her life was taken. Police say it was Winston Glynn, a former employee who shot and killed Nieves while robbing that restaurant, even after she gave him the money. Another service will be held tomorrow at Manhattan Funeral Service on 104th Street from 2 to 6 p.m. Her funeral will be held on Saturday in Puerto Rico.
Well, tonight, the victim of a deadly subway shove in Times Square is being remembered coast to coast. You're looking at live images from San Francisco's Chinatown, where community members there are mourning the death of Michelle Alyssa Go. She is from the West Coast, but died at the Times Square subway station when a man pushed her onto the tracks there.
Yeah, Pix 11's Jay Dow joins us live from Times Square, where her memory was also honored. Jay.
Well, Corey, speaking earlier this afternoon in the Bronx, Mayor Eric Adams made it clear that New Yorkers are not imagining things. He says that he acknowledges that when New Yorkers go down into the subways and they're not feeling safe, he says when he goes down there, he feels the same way tonight in Times Square during a vigil for Michelle Go. He pledged to do something about it. A large crowd gathered Tuesday evening in Times Square to honor the latest victim of a random act of extreme violence on the New York City subway system. 40-year-old Michelle Go was standing on a Times Square subway platform Saturday morning when 61-year-old Simon Marshall came up from behind and pushed her into the path of an oncoming train. Marshall turned himself in an hour later and is now charged with second-degree murder. Go's friends and co-workers spoke about her desire to always live life to the fullest.
Michelle, we will miss you deeply, but know that you will always be in our hearts and memories.
Mayor Eric Adams, New York State Attorney General Letitia James, and a host of other elected officials and community leaders all stood at the podium to express their frustration with Go's senseless death and the need to improve safety on the platform for all riders.
We must ensure that we have a plan of intervention and prevention. Intervention is what we must do now. My deployment of law enforcement officers matched with mental health professionals to identify those who are in need, and give them the services immediately is what we must do right now.
We have people living on a street, and we must admit it, who are a danger to themselves and to others. Not all individuals who are struggling with mental illness are dangerous. But let's be honest, some are. And it's time to say enough. Enough. And we must focus our energy and ensure that the state and local governments provide resources to individuals who are struggling with mental illness.
The NYPD has yet to classify Go's death as a hate crime, but members of the Asian American community say it's no coincidence she is the latest victim in a pattern of anti-Asian violence committed in the city over the last 2 years. Spoke with a subway rider earlier this afternoon. He says he loves the city. He always goes into the subway, but these days he doesn't go at night, and when he does, he's always got his head on a swivel, being pushed into the path of an oncoming train, always on his mind. We're live in Times Square tonight. Jay Dow, Pix 11 News.
Jay, thank you so much. Well, new developments in Monday's police-involved shooting in Yonkers. Authorities say the suspect apparently wanted police to shoot and kill him. 5 officers responded to that call about a man waving a gun on the 3rd floor of the apartment building at 52 Main Street. A 24-year-old resident of that building shouted at the officers that he had a gun. It turned out to be a makeshift imitation pistol. Police opened fire, though, hitting the man in the leg. He was hospitalized, listed in stable condition. At this point, charges are pending in that case.
Let's turn now to the weather outside. We've now dipped below the freezing mark, Mr. G.
Yeah, we're on the way down for tonight, on the way up for tomorrow. 30 degrees, 21 degrees in Newburgh, 29 in Islip. You can see again as we look at this map, we're in a return flow off a high. That means southwesterly winds blowing in our direction. That means a better day tomorrow. We're going into the mid-40s. We're just about normal to date for the month. That's going to feel good. But look at the polar vortex. Breaks loose, heads in our direction. We'll chat more about that later on.
Gee, thank you.
Well, Mayor Adams held a briefing today to discuss plans for New York City public schools after the city saw some pretty poor attendance in the first few weeks of this new year.
Yeah, last week the mayor announced the city was considering a temporary return to remote learning. But with COVID numbers beginning to fall, the mayor said attendance is beginning to rise.
Yeah, the city is considering the addition of virtual instruction for students isolated because of COVID, but he wants to keep the schools open.
We are not going to do anything that is going to stop our children from coming into schools. We said this over and over again. So please hear me, New Yorkers. Our schools are going to remain open.
Adams says any talk of remote learning he had with the head of the teachers union solely involved students affected by positive COVID tests who may have to miss a week or more of class.
Well, students and teachers in Newark returned to the classroom today after spending the first 3 weeks of 2022 doing school from home. Comes after New Jersey's largest city saw a record number of COVID cases. That trend now appears, for the moment, to be easing. While some had the reservations about returning to the classroom, the Newark Teachers Union believes the worst is now behind them.
Certain schools, we did see spikes, and if it had not been for the winter break, there would have been certain schools in Newark that would have had to have shut down completely.
We've had a little good news that our numbers are starting to decline as we continue to go down. We pray that this is the end we're seeing.
20% of New Jersey's school districts are currently on a remote schedule. That includes Paterson because of concerns over the community infection rate. When we come back, a disturbing crime caught on camera with a woman attacking a group of children in Brooklyn. Straight ahead, the video and why police say she did it.
Plus, the community is mourning the loss of a 15-year-old who was killed yesterday in a hit and run by a school bus driver. Why some say the case underscores a larger problem with pedestrian safety in the city.
And still ahead, former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani under subpoena tonight. We'll explain why when we're back in just 90 seconds. A tragic story out of New Jersey tonight. A mother and her 9-month-old son were found dead inside a car that was floating in a pond in Piscataway. Police responded this morning to the area of Stelton Road and Lakeview Avenue, found them submerged in a nearby New Market pond. An investigation into what happened is currently underway, but if you have information, you're asked to call Piscataway Police. Tonight, police are still investigating the hit and run that killed a 15-year-old in the Bronx. She was hit by a school bus. At this point, the bus driver is only facing moving violations.
And Exxon's James Ford explains why it could take some time before this community in mourning sees justice.
On Tuesday afternoon, classmates of Antonina Zatalovska walked out of Madison High School to an NYPD police detail and a police Vision Zero van in addition to the crossing guard. It's the day after this at Bedford Avenue and Avenue P. This is where 15-year-old Antonina Zatalovska was killed Monday morning when a school bus turned the corner and ran her over. The driver, Alexander Patlak, faces these charges, which are moving violations, failure to yield to a pedestrian, and failure to use due care. People close to the victim said off camera that they want to see more serious charges. An expert in cases like this has this to say.
Take a deep breath and calm down, as hard as that may be, and let the investigation take its course.
Retired NYPD Lieutenant Commander of Detectives Ralph Cilento has supervised investigators like the ones at the scene yesterday. He calls this a tragedy, but also says that the more serious charge of knowingly leaving a scene of a crime takes some time to investigate, and that's what's happening now.
Interviewing witnesses, anybody who might have seen anything, recorded Uber cameras. We ask people to come forward if they know anything. And so all of those things need to be analyzed.
Whether this was an accident or not, an advocate for changing traffic policies says it still shows a need for those changes.
Present, we've had now 10 fatalities in January, and we're still early in the year. For the mayor to move forward, for New York City to move forward, we have to ensure that our streets are built for people.
He points out that Mayor Eric Adams has committed to 25% of all city streets being closed to traffic by 2025, and he says that New Yorkers need to hold the mayor to that. Meanwhile, the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office saying the investigation is ongoing and it may be a while before we know if there are additional charges in this case. Reporting from Midwood, Brooklyn, I'm James Ford, Pix 11 News.
A woman caught on camera spitting on an 8-year-old little boy after harassing him and 2 other children. This one happened last week in Brooklyn. Police say that woman walked up to the 3 kids who were walking along Avenue P in Marine Park. They say she made anti-Semitic comments to the kids before spitting on one of them, then walked away. Right now, police are looking for this woman. They say she's in her 20s, around 5'3", 140 pounds. If you know who she is, give Crime Stoppers a call and help them out.
Well, the latest subpoena from the House January 6th committee is being directed at former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani.
Yeah, with more on what members of Congress want and what could happen from here, let's bring in Pix 11's Marvin Scott with more. Hi there, Marvin.
Hey, Tamsin, you know, these latest subpoenas, they're further evidence that the committee is escalating its investigation in pursuit of answers as to who may be responsible for actions leading up to that insurrection. And for the first time, the committee is also reaching out to members of former President Trump's family. But today's immediate target, it was Trump's former lawyer, Rudy Giuliani.
Because there's not a singular voter fraud in one state. This pattern repeats itself in a number of states.
The House subcommittee said Giuliani and allies Jenna Ellis and Sidney Powell, standing beside him, along with aide Boris Epstein, were part of a group of Trump advisors involved in efforts to overturn the presidential election. The committee chairman wrote, "The 4 individuals we have subpoenaed today advanced unsupported theories about election fraud, pushed efforts to overturn the election results, or were in direct contact with the former president about attempts to stop the counting of electoral votes." The former New York mayor took on a leading role in disputing the election results. To date, not a single court has found merit in the legal claims that the election was stolen from Trump. The committee has already heard from nearly 400 witnesses. At least one of Trump's former allies is being held in contempt of Congress for refusing to respond to subpoenas. Trump and his Republican supporters have debunked the investigation, calling it a political witch hunt orchestrated by Democrats. Professor Emeritus Alan Sanders of St. Peter's University takes issue with that claim.
Accusations that the whole thing is political is really nonsense, because what it really involves is everyone that's been involved in the January 6th riot and insurrection was a politician or a political figure.
Political strategist Hank Scheinkoff agrees.
It's more than political. This is about crimes committed in the capital of the United States of America, of police officers assaulted, and an attempt, frankly, to disrupt the government operations of the country and maybe even to kill the vice president.
In addition to the latest subpoenas, the January 6th committee has also subpoenaed and obtained phone records of Trump's youngest son, Eric, and Kimberly Guilfoyle, who's engaged to Donald Trump Jr. This is the first time the committee has taken direct action against a member of the Trump family. The committee is continuing its hearings, but what will the final results be?
Where does this go is the question. No one really knows, because we've never had a situation like this before. Could you arrest the former president and his advisors? Probably. Hasn't been done. Not likely ever, but there's a first time for everything, and we live in the craziest times anyway.
I reached out to Giuliani, but have not heard back from him or his attorney as to whether or not he'll respond to the subpoena and appear before that select committee. Tamsin, Corey.
All right, Marvin, thank you so much.
Okay, let's turn to the weather story out there. Getting colder, G.
Yeah, it is. And not only that, we're going to moderate so the swings continue this season. 30 degrees right now, wind chill 25 north and west today. Tomorrow's a better day. The forecast temperature you can see as we get into Wednesday in the afternoon between 1 and 3 o'clock, right around the mid-40s. Let's make it 46 degrees. Weak storm heading to our north, but a trailing cold front is coming across, and that's Arctic in nature. Now follow the action. We're approaching midnight, and that's going to be tomorrow night. And you can see once it crosses the region, we're going to go from an area of light rain to an area of light snow. Blossoms out a little bit. It looks like 3-4 hours from about 3 a.m. to about 7 a.m. Most of it south, most of it east of the city. And as you look at the modeling here, it looks to us like a 1 to 2 inch snowfall spots 3 inches, easily can go 1 to 3 in that range, ending on Thursday early, let's say at about 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, so the rush hour will be difficult. We took the modeling, we took the graph, the GFS, the European, and the NAM, and we threw it all in the hopper, and it comes out to 1 to 2 inches. So again, that would be the estimate right now. It's fast moving, and then the Arctic air behind that air mass comes in. So it's a disturbance by, and look at these numbers, man. This really gets low. You can see Thursday in the afternoon wind chill right around 17. Look at Friday, -9, though I think it'll be more like 0, -1. Temps tumble. Friday's frigid. 7-day outlook. The weekend features perhaps a little bit more snow. We'll chat later on.
Gee, thank you.
All right, we have some breaking news right now out of the Bronx. An officer and a suspect shot. This happened in the Belmont section just before 10 p.m. You're looking at the Citizen video of the scene.
Yeah, we are told that the officer should end up being okay. There's no word on how the suspect is doing at this point or what led to this, the identities of anyone involved. We have a crew on the way to the scene right now. We're going to bring you more details just as soon as we get them. All right, meantime, coming up, Governor Hochul is unveiling the state's budget for next year, and New Yorkers are reacting to it. We're going to break down what you need to know about it.
Yes, and former Mayor Bill de Blasio making an announcement today that could shape the race for governor. We'll talk about that when we come back.
$216 billion with a B. That's how much New York Governor Kathy Hochul wants the state to spend come next year.
Yeah, PIX7's Henry Rossoff has a look at some of her key proposals and what it means for the city.
Help the homeless, get them into shelters.
Better schools, more schools, smaller class size. We need more community centers.
Governor Hochul is addressing some of that in her wide-ranging $216 billion budget, including $31 billion for schools and child care. But most of that is focused on big-picture education expansion, especially outside the city.
And this should be used to continue expanding our pre-K program to school districts all across the state.
One area we found the governor was perhaps more on the mark was addressing taxes.
My property taxes beat me up every year. They keep going up, and nothing seems to be done about it, even though everybody always talks about, we'll lower your property taxes, but it doesn't happen.
We will provide a $2 billion property tax rebate to more than 2 million middle-class homeowners.
Hochul's budget also includes middle-income tax relief and breaks for small businesses who've been battered by COVID expenses. And today, the governor's budget director, who also served under Governor Cuomo, conceded that last year's budget hiking income taxes on the wealthiest New Yorkers did not, in fact, drive them from the state as some feared it would. This year, Governor Hochul is also devoting nearly $33 billion to transportation spending, and not just big-ticket improvements like fixing the interchanges around JFK and capping the cross Bronx, but also
a $1 billion plan called Operation POP, Pave Our Potholes. And this strategy takes us from potholes to not holes.
Henry Rossoff, PIX11 News.
Well, still to come, a groundbreaking program in New Jersey that's helping residents who are struggling with opioid addiction. We'll tell you how it works.
Well, several key positions inside the Adams administration remain unfilled, but tonight the mayor is still being questioned about the people he has appointed. We're going to be right back with the story.
You're watching the PIX11 News at 10.
Well, several City Hall appointments appear to be on hold right now as some of the nominees are facing questions about potential conflicts of interest. Thanks for staying with us. I'm Tamsin Fidel.
I'm Corey Chambers. Meanwhile, the new Deputy Mayor for Public Safety is facing a new controversy. PIX7's Anna Harry has details.
I know what I must do for the city. I must appoint and hire the best talent.
Confidence from Mayor Eric Adams after another headline about his new deputy mayor for public safety, Phil Banks. The New York Daily News reported that while serving as the NYPD's chief of department, Banks was on vacation in Los Angeles one day after the death of Eric Garner.
Phil Banks, as well as the other appointments that I made, are the best people to do the job for New Yorkers.
Mayor Adams was expected to appoint Carlos Cesura to run the city's Economic Development Corporation until concerns were raised that Cesura may have previously gotten paid to help private developers navigate deals with the city without disclosing his involvement. Katie Honan is a reporter with news outlet The City.
But I had received a contract from a source that showed he did some apparent unregistered lobbying work
on behalf of a friend, a real estate developer.
City Hall has not confirmed if Cicero will be hired, as several city departments right now remain without commissioners.
You need a buildings commissioner, you need a fire commissioner, you need an emergency management commissioner. So they've got to fill these jobs.
While the mayor did announce several hires at the very start of his term.
In the last week or so, that process has kind of slowed down. The administration has dealt with a number of stories about problems with some of their appointees and ethical questions that have arisen.
But attorney and political consultant J.C. Polanco points out
the mayoralty here in New York City is the second hardest job next to the president of the United States.
Polanco believes the mayor is appointing people he trusts and who are also qualified for the job.
Mayor Adams has made it clear that the individuals are going to be able to go through their background checks.
The mayor stood firm, saying he's building the best team for New York, and City Hall has told us there is a vetting process in place for potential hires. Reporting from the newsroom, Ayana Harry, Pix 11 News.
Well, former Mayor Bill de Blasio was heavily hinted at running at a possible run for New York governor. You may have heard that. Well, today he announced that he is staying out of that race. He released this video saying that he would not pursue the governor's office, but he teased more information about his future in the days to come. The announcement will change the outlook for the Democratic primary. A Siena College poll actually had de Blasio polling number 2 behind Governor Hochul, although it's a distant second place, as you can see. Public advocate Jumaane Williams followed with 11% of the votes in the poll. Congressman Tom Suozzi had 6%.
New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy was sworn into office for his second term today. He's the first Democrat to be reelected by Garden State voters since 1977. But remember, this almost didn't happen. Republican challenger Jack Ciattarelli defied expectations to almost catch Murphy. Now, as he begins term number 2, Murphy says he's putting state over party.
Being governor is not about the party to which we belong. So I renew my pledge to be the governor for all of New Jersey. The governor for everyone who voted for me and for everyone who did not. After all, we are all New Jerseyans.
Murphy says he's going to try to lower property taxes. He also says he believes that New Jersey can show the country the American dream is alive and can work for everyone. Well, the fate of the voting rights bill hangs in the balance as the Senate started debate today.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says no matter what, he is ready to call for a vote on voting rights. Schumer says Democrats must pass the reform legislation despite Republican opposition. The big hurdle, West Virginia Democratic Senator Joe Manchin and Arizona Senator Kyrsten Sinema. Today, Manchin defended his opposition to changing the filibuster.
The majority of my colleagues in the caucus, Democrat caucus, they've changed. They've changed their mind. I respect that. You have a right to change your mind. I haven't. I hope they respect that too. I've never changed my mind on the filibuster.
The Senate is expected to hold a vote on Wednesday to end debate on the voting legislation. Well, Paterson, New Jersey is one of 15 cities from across the globe to receive a $1 million grant from the Bloomberg Foundation.
The city is now using the money to launch a program for residents struggling with opioid addiction. Officials say the Real Fix program is going to fulfill requests for life-saving medication within 90 minutes through a coordinated effort with police, first responders, hospitals, and pharmacies.
Yeah, Mayor Andre Saya is calling it a proud day for Paterson. He tweeted that the program is a result of solving challenges in a new and effective way.
Still ahead, a controversial 5G rollout has once again been delayed. The last-minute decision from Verizon and AT&T that could change the future of air travel.
Yeah, plus your breakfast could soon be slightly more sour. Orange juice, the latest item facing a price hike. We'll tell you the reason and how soon it could impact your grocery bill when we come back.
Time for your Strictly Business report on Wall Street. Technology and bank stocks dragged the markets to a new low for 2022. The Dow losing 543 points. Well, AT&T and Verizon have partially delayed the rollout of their new 5G wireless service. This following concerns raised by the airline industry about potential interference with important systems on planes. The airlines warned of massive flight cancellations and disruptions. They want the new service to be banned within 2 miles of any airport runways. The Biden administration got involved to settle the showdown between the telecom companies and the airlines. The rollout was scheduled for tomorrow.
believe that with continued cooperation, we can chart a path forward. But certainly minimizing flight disruptions, ensuring safety in travel is a top priority.
So critics say airlines knew for years that this was coming and failed to adapt their technology. Exxon Mobil has announced a goal of net zero emissions by 2050. The oil company says it really wants to focus on areas like reducing methane leaks and ending routine natural gas venting and flaring. The goal does not include either consumer use of Exxon products or oil fields. And a new study found that New Yorkers spend less money on groceries than most of the country. That's according to a study by FilterBuy. New Yorkers spend about $3,500 per year in groceries. That's about 7% of earnings. Hawaii is the state that spends the most, around $4,500 a year. That means residents there spend more than 10% of their annual earnings in groceries. The national average sits at 8%. And get ready to pay more for another supermarket staple. This time we're talking about orange juice. It's the latest item set to see a price hike now. It's due to forecasters predicting the smallest orange crop since 1945. The U.S. Agriculture Department expects Florida will produce 44 million boxes of oranges. That will be a decrease of early 40% from last year. Experts say something called citrus greening is to blame. It's a disease that thins the crown of orange trees and diminishes their vitality. And that's a look at tonight's Strictly Business Report. There's always another item, right?
It seems like never-ending, Tamsin. All right. Well, the new federal government website to get at-home COVID tests is now up and running tonight. You can check covidtest.gov for free rapid tests sent straight to your door. Each person can get up to 4 tests to their household. The Biden administration plans to distribute 1 billion tests this way. The website's now running with limited capacity and will be fully functional starting tomorrow morning. The government estimates it will take between 7 and 12 days to ship the tests. Well, still ahead, a local high school student being honored tonight. We're going to tell you how our initiative is helping several pediatric cancer survivors in their community.
And coming up in sports, 2 frontrunners have emerged for the Giants' general manager opening. Plus, an insane third quarter for the Knicks at the Garden. They put up 40, but was it enough against the win for Minnesota? Highlights and much more on the way.
This is breaking news from Pix 11.
And breaking right now in the Bronx, an officer and a suspect shot.
Yeah, this happened in the Belmont section just for 10 p.m. Greg Mocker now on the scene for us with what we're learning. Greg.
Corey and Tamsin, things are still developing out here, but you hear the helicopter overhead and you see the flashing lights. DCPI has confirmed that an officer was shot in the leg, taken to St. Barnabas Hospital. Not life-threatening injuries there. It happened at 2356 Laurillard Place. That's around East 184th Street and 3rd Avenue in the Belmont section of the Bronx. So if you hear the helicopter there, that's why that is up. There was also one suspect shot, NYPD is telling us. It did happen about an hour ago. NYPD did tweet about a half hour ago that there would be police activity in this area, and I can confirm that. We're stopped here at about 181st Street. 3rd Avenue closed off here as they investigate what happened live in the Belmont section of the Bronx. Greg Mocker, Pix 11 News.
All right, Greg, thank you for the update tonight.
Okay, obviously we'll have more in the morning news as well, if we learn anything else. A Long Island high school student being honored for collecting hundreds of toys to give to kids battling cancer.
Yeah, Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman joined representatives and patients from the Hewlett House to celebrate Marcy Baldinger's donation. The Kennedy High School senior was awarded with a citation from the county for really amazing effort. She says it's all about making sure the kids feel at home while they're there at the center.
It makes me feel great. It's really just about like helping others, and like it makes me happy to know that they're happy, and it made a difference.
And she is making a difference. The Hewlett House has been helping children diagnosed with cancer for the last decade. It says the donation goes a long way for the children as they fight cancer. And the MTA completing renovations at the 170th Street and Jerome Avenue station in the Bronx.
Yeah, the station now has 3 new elevators and 2 new stairway entrances north of 170th Street. Officials say the new features make the station fully accessible and improve customer experience as well.
There's new lighting and security cameras as well, plus a beautiful glass installation. The subway has always been a place for public art, and we're going to continue that.
The project was completed on a budget and also ahead of schedule.
NYC winter outing kicked into high gear today with a lighting ceremony at the Empire State Building.
Yeah, it sure did. Mayor Adams was joined by performers from Broadway's Aladdin and members of the city's hotel and restaurant industries. Deals include prefix menus at more than 500 restaurants, Broadway tickets, and more than 45 museums, tours, and other performing arts as well.
The New York City Restaurant Week, New York City Broadway Week, New York City Must See Week, and New York City Hotel Week. All of them together combined is just really sending one message. Why the heck you going to Paris? Paris, be here in New York City. This is the place to be and to enjoy in your backyard.
Is that going to be an SNL next week?
Probably.
Why are you going to Paris? Nearly 130 hotels across the 5 boroughs will be offering 22% off the standard retail rates through February 13th.
I love it. All right, let's go ahead and talk about what's going on outside. Hey, G.
Guys, a little bit of snow is in the forecast now. All the models come together for a couple of inches, looks like, and that would be Thursday early. Let's go. 30 degrees, 19 degrees up to the north. Tomorrow's a better day. It's a good day, and temperatures tomorrow will probably hover in the mid-40s. That's not the problem. The problem's going to be the weak storm heading on by during the rush hour Thursday for 1 or 2 inches of snow, spots a little bit more, and then after that, cold air comes flying in. Now watch what happens. You can see as the Arctic front approaches, starts out as a little rain, then the snow blossoms out. Probably the worst of it between 3 a.m. and about 7, 8, 9 a.m. and then you see it begin to move out. Heavyish looks to be to the east and south and east of the city. So as we composite all the models, you can see the thinking of 1 or 2, 1 or 3 inches. That's going to be the ballpark figure, but again, it's during the rush hour. It's going to stick. Probably north of the city. The ground's still warm here, but again, who wants to deal with that on a Thursday morning during the rush? Then we got to deal with all standing water going frozen because that's Arctic air, and that's going to come in a hurry on Friday and Saturday and Sunday, and that's real polar in nature. And once it settles on in, we're going to watch a storm. The indicators now are it's going out to sea. This hopefully goes out to sea because you don't want a coastal low and this Arctic air in place. Actually, the Arctic air is going to block it, deflect it, and then the jet will kick it out. That's how we see it. This is the European model, a little close for comfort, right? But that's been the way it's been all season. Winds up, explodes, but explodes again over the open waters of the ocean. That's, again, going to be the scenario we think. But again, Thursday early, 1 or 2 inches. Look at the temps throughout the period. We'll watch the coastal low for Saturday and Sunday, but a very cold map coming up.
Gee, thank you.
All right, let's talk sports, Justin.
You know, Corey, a familiar face returned to the Knicks starting lineup tonight. Welcome back, Kemba Walker. He's missed the last 9 games with a knee injury. Let's start things off in the third quarter. Quentin Grimes steals the inbounds here, drives, hoop, and the harm. Knicks ended up scoring 40 in the third and took a 5-point lead into the fourth. That's when Kemba Walker caught fire. He had 9 points in a stretch of a minute, all of them 3-pointers. The second one here, money from the top of the key. And then seconds later, Kemba, I think he's got his swagger back. But the Timberwolves had an immediate answer. New Jersey's own Karl Anthony Towns and one over Julius Randle. T-Wolves back in front. It all comes down to this. Final seconds, Knicks down 2. Evan Fournier shot is no good. Alec Burks gets it back in the air. Another miss. Minnesota survives. Final score 112-110. As for the Nets, Brooklyn's first glimpse of life without Kevin Durant ended in a loss on MLK Day to Cleveland. Following the game, Kyrie Irving stood strong in his stance about not getting vaccinated. When you factor in the limited amount of games played by the Big Three together, along with KD's injury, there's not much optimism going on right now. Here's Kyrie's answer to that.
What's going on with the Nets Big Three and they can't stay healthy? And I'm like, you hear it all the time. You read it all the time. And I say to that, it's just, our time's coming. It's coming. It may not be now, but I definitely feel like some of these things that happen are for a reason, and it's for a bigger purpose, and we'll see what happens.
A short list is starting to emerge for the Giants' general manager opening. Among that group is Buffalo Bills assistant GM Joe Schoen. Schoen completed his second interview with the club today. The other favorite to emerge is Kansas City's executive of player personnel, Ryan Poles. But the Giants should interview Poles ASAP, and I mean right now. Both Minnesota and Chicago, who have GM openings, are also interested in Poles. Schoen and Poles are the only known finalists, but another name could make the cut. Big Blue completed 9 interviews in round 1. Still ahead in sports, the Islanders took on a struggling Flyers club tonight, plus some fun from the Australian Open. We'll be right back. For the second straight day, the Islanders took on the Philadelphia Flyers. The Isles won Game 1 of the home and home. Let's head out to the city of brotherly love for Game 2. Isles down 3-2 in the third. Scott Mayfield finds Casey Cizikas with a great positioning. We're tied at 3, but 3 periods not enough. In the shootout, Oliver Wahlstrom with a nice stick work and gets it right past Carter Hart, giving the Isles the extra point. Take another look. Patience is a virtue. Look at that. Isles win this 4-3. And finally, down under at the Australian Open, Nick Kyrgios wanted to have some fun and decided to casually return it between his legs. It actually worked, and he won the point. For those new to Kyrgios, this is just another day for him. He's known for his theatrics and wild things, even in a button-up sport such as tennis. Just casually, yeah, I got this. The important thing to know is that Kyrgios did it with style, and he won it in straight sets. That puts a bow on sports. Corey and Tampson.
All right, Justin, thank you.
All right, G, doing it with style one last time for us tonight.
All right, Corey, this is the heart of the winter, and this is polar air heading in our direction. One more mild day, you're going to have it for tomorrow, and then the Arctic air comes in, and a little bit of light snow comes in on Thursday morning as well. 31 degrees, your wake-up forecast. Now look, it looks like an inch or two possible Thursday in the morning. On Friday, mostly sunny skies. Look at the split, 23 and 16. We're looking at the data coming in right now. That'll probably come in after the show. However, Saturday looks like the coastal low is a miss at 28 degrees. 34 degrees on Sunday. Monday and Tuesday, guys, it stays cold. Actually, the map's very active, and it looks like it stays that way right through the 26th of this month.
All right, G, thank you.
Yeah, and thank you so much for joining us for the Pix 11 News at 10. I'm Corey Chambers.
And I'm Tamsin. Fidel Seinfeld is coming up next for you. Have a good night.